Artificial intelligence was supposed to connect the world. Instead, it may be creating new borders. Not only political borders, intelligence borders, borders built from chips, data centers, cloud systems, and power. And the future may belong not only to those who build AI, but to those who decide where it can live. For decades, the digital world was described as borderless. Information would flow freely. Software would spread globally. Networks would weaken geography. Technology would dissolve old limits. Artificial intelligence was supposed to accelerate that future. A universal layer of intelligence, available everywhere, shaping the same digital civilization for everyone. That idea now looks incomplete, because AI is not only software, it is infrastructure. And infrastructure always returns to geography. It needs chips, factories, cloud systems, data centers, electricity, capital, regulation, security, language, political trust. The more important artificial intelligence becomes, the less borderless it becomes. And that is the beginning of a new age. The age of intelligence borders. These borders do not always look like walls or checkpoints. They are built through access. Who can access the chips? Who can host the compute? Who controls the cloud? Who has the power? Who sets the standards? Who owns the data center? Who can continue operating under pressure? This is how AI becomes territorial. Not because code itself has nationality, but because code runs on systems that do. That is what the world is beginning to understand. The next map of power may not be drawn only by land, oceans, or trade routes. It may also be drawn by intelligence infrastructure. Some regions will control more of the AI stack. Some will depend on the stacks of others. Some will become full builders of intelligence capacity. Some will remain users of systems they cannot truly influence. This is why the rise of sovereign AI matters. Not because countries suddenly became philosophical about machine intelligence, but because they realized dependence at the intelligence layer is dangerous. If your AI depends on foreign chips, your future is exposed. If your models depend on foreign cloud systems, your autonomy is limited. If your data centers depend on power you cannot scale, your growth is fragile. If your deployment depends on rules written elsewhere, your sovereignty is partial. This is the new border logic of the AI age. A country may still connect to the world, but it may no longer trust the world to host its intelligence future. That is why we are seeing infrastructure moves instead of slogans. Europe is no longer only regulating AI. It is trying to host it. Mistral's financing for a large AI data center and thousands of NVIDIA chips is not just a company expansion story. It is part of a larger European effort to reduce dependence and create room for local AI capacity. Germany's push for more sovereign control through local AI data center growth points in the same direction. In China, interest in domestic AI chips and internal hardware resilience points to another version of the same story. A system under pressure trying to secure its own path. And in the United States, AI is becoming tied more directly to power politics, federal policy, grid strain, and large-scale infrastructure expansion. These are not isolated events. They are signals that intelligence is no longer floating above the world. It is settling into territory. This changes the meaning of globalization. The old model assumed that deep digital interdependence would keep expanding. The AI era introduces a different possibility. Interdependence remains, but trust declines. Connection remains, but control matters more. The network does not disappear, it fragments. Some systems remain open. Some become strategic. Some become restricted. Some become regionally aligned. This is how a connected world begins producing digital blocks. Not necessarily total separation, but partial separation around the most important layers. Chips, cloud, calculate, data, energy, deployment. That is why the phrase "new borders of intelligence" matters. Because the future may not be defined by whether countries use AI. Almost all serious countries will use AI. The deeper difference is whether they can shape the infrastructure beneath it. Can they build enough? Can they host enough? Can they power enough? can they trust enough of the stack? Those questions create the new dividing lines. And once those dividing lines appear, the consequences spread everywhere. Economic power changes, military planning changes, education changes, media ecosystems change, industrial policy changes, cultural influence changes, because intelligence is not just a tool, it is becoming a governing layer. A layer that ranks, predicts, filters, recommends, optimizes, and decides. If that layer is controlled elsewhere, then part of your future is controlled elsewhere too. That is the logic now driving infrastructure sovereignty. The border is no longer only where your land begins. The border is where your dependence begins. That is a profound change. It means the future of a nation may depend less on whether it can write code and more on whether it can sustain a trusted intelligence stack inside its own sphere of influence. This is also why the AI age may feel more divided than the internet age. The internet reduced friction in communication. Artificial intelligence increases the importance of concentration because advanced AI depends on narrow bottlenecks. A few chip designers, a few fabs, a few hyperscale clouds, a few tool makers, a few energy-rich data center zones. That means the world is not moving toward one even field of intelligence. It is moving toward uneven zones of AI capability. Some will lead. Some will align. Some will depend. Some will be left negotiating access to infrastructures they do not own. This creates a new hierarchy, not simply of rich and poor, but of intelligence sovereignty. At the top are the actors that can influence multiple critical layers. Below them are actors who can use intelligence but not fully shape it. That is the new border system, and it changes the meaning of freedom in the digital age. Because if artificial intelligence becomes a layer that shapes knowledge, visibility, logistics, finance, defense, and human judgment, then whoever controls that layer gains extraordinary leverage. Not just technological leverage, civilizational leverage. This is why AI borders are more important than many people realize. They are not only about national prestige, they are about who will shape the conditions under which intelligence itself is produced and deployed. And that may become one of the most decisive forms of power in the modern world. The old world was shaped by industrial powers, military powers, and energy powers. The next world may be shaped by intelligence powers, and intelligence powers will not be defined only by better models. They will be defined by stacks, by infrastructure, by computation, by cloud, by chips, by power, by territorial control over digital systems that once looked global. That is why the world is not only building AI, it is building borders around AI, not always to stop it, but to hold it, to govern it, to trust it, to survive through it. And that is why the new borders of intelligence have already begun to appear, not in theory, in data centers, in chip policy, in energy planning, in cloud contracts, in infrastructure finance, in the slow division of the digital world into zones of intelligence power.